The war was lost. Everyone knew it. Across the Orion front, the Galactic Union's fleets were in ruins. Battlecruisers drifted as lifeless husks, their hulls shattered by Zarkari plasma barrages. Communications were flooded with distress signals. Entire sectors fell silent, their defenses crushed beneath the relentless advance of an enemy that had never known defeat. Admiral Kale Varos of the Galactic Union sat in the war chamber, staring at the holographic display. Red markers, denoting Zarkari forces, sprawled across the map like a spreading infection. Blue icons, once the proud armada of the Union, had dwindled to scattered remnants. He exhaled sharply. This is it. The other council members, a mix of admirals, strategists, and diplomats, shared grim looks. We have nothing left, General Ivarn of the Kalari sighed, rubbing his ridged forehead. The Zarkari have taken the Orion Belt. If they push past Epsilon Prime, they reach the core worlds. We're out of options. We surrender, muttered High Minister Trellin. His voice was hollow. It's the only way to preserve what little remains. Silence. No one argued. No one wanted to. Then a voice cut through the gloom. No, said Admiral Ethan Grayson, standing at the far end of the chamber. He hadn't spoken until now, simply watching, waiting. Now, all eyes turned to him. Trellin scoffed. What alternative do you suggest? Pray to the stars? We fought for 27 years and bled ourselves dry. Grayson leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. Call in the Terran fleet. The room was silent for 3 beats. Then laughter. Bitter. Disbelieving. Humans? Scoffed Admiral Rethose of the Valari Dominion. Your species has barely been in space for 2 centuries. Grayson didn't flinch. You don't need numbers to win a war. You need superiority. Trellin shook his head. We need ships, Admiral. We need firepower. We have it. You don't understand, Rethose pressed. The Zarkari have warred for millennia. They've broken the finest tacticians in the galaxy. Their fleets outnumber ours 10 to 1. Grayson finally smiled. Then it's hardly fair for them. The council stared. He straightened. Give me full command authority. No restrictions. No committees. Just orders, given and executed. General Ivarn studied him. And if we refuse? You die. Grayson tapped the holographic display. Along with every species in the Union. The Zarkari don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They burn worlds. You all know this. Yet you sit here debating surrender, hoping for mercy. He let the words settle before delivering the final blow. Humanity doesn't beg. We win. Silence. Trellin clenched his jaw. If you fail, we lose everything. We already have. A pause. Do it, Ivarn said. Rethose turned in shock. You can't be serious. I am, the Kalari general said grimly. We have no other play. The Union leadership hesitated for only a moment longer before the official order was given. The Terran fleet was summoned. 5 hours later, they arrived. The bridge of the UTS Warborn was eerily quiet as it dropped out of slipspace. The lead ship of the Terran Armada, it was sleek, black, and bristling with technology unlike anything the Galactic Union had seen before. Surrounding it, a force of nearly 1,000 vessels emerged. Small in number, compared to the countless legions of the Zarkari, but each one a masterpiece of warfare. Admiral Grayson, the comms officer called. We have visual on the Zarkari fleet. Grayson approached the viewport. A sea of enemy warships stretched before them, their dark, chitinous hulls pulsing with energy. The Zarkari fleet commander, High Warlord Audiobook-style, wasted no time sending his message. His image flickered into view, a towering figure clad in battle armor, his red eyes gleaming with disdain. This is the last, pathetic gasp of the Union? Virox sneered. You insult us, sending a race of infants to die in their place? Grayson folded his arms. Funny. That's what I was thinking. Virox bared his fangs. Your species is irrelevant, human. You should have stayed hidden on your homeworld. Grayson turned to his tactical officer. Are the fleets in position? Yes, sir. He nodded and turned back to Virox. You talk too much. Then he cut the transmission. All ships, he said, voice calm. Engage. And the war that had lasted 27 years entered its final 5 hours. The first shots were fired before the Zakari even understood they were in battle. The UTS Warborn launched a blistering salvo of kinetic rounds, each moving at a fraction of light speed. Unlike plasma or energy-based weapons favored by the rest of the galaxy, humanity's mass drivers operated on a simpler, deadlier principle: velocity and impact. The first Zakari dreadnought took 3 direct hits to its forward hull. It did not explode. It simply ceased to exist as the rounds tore through its structure like a meteor through glass. Across the void, the rest of the Terran fleet followed suit. Zakari ships are scrambling, sir, reported Tactical Officer Lin. They're trying to form a defensive line. Let them try, Grayson replied, watching the battle unfold on the holomap. Activate electronic warfare protocols. Within seconds, the battlefield shifted. The Zakari's massive fleet, numbering in the tens of thousands, suddenly found itself fighting blind. Their targeting systems flickered. Communications collapsed. Their command network, once an unbreakable neural link spanning hundreds of ships, shattered under the onslaught of Terran cyber warfare. Across the enemy formation, ships collided. A confused destroyer, unable to identify friend from foe, fired on its own escorts. The Zakari had never encountered an enemy that attacked them in ways they couldn't see, couldn't predict. Grayson turned to his comms officer. Patch me through to the Union's command outpost. The holographic feed snapped to life, revealing the wide-eyed faces of the Galactic Union leadership. They had expected slaughter, just not of the Zakari. What is this?" stammered Admiral Redhose. Grayson folded his arms. "This is what happens when you stop playing fair." On the battlefield, the Terran fleet kept up the pressure. Automated combat drones, launched from stealth carriers, weaved between enemy ships, delivering pinpoint strikes to vulnerable subsystems. Swarms of micromissiles sought out engines, rendering vessels adrift. Still, the Zakari weren't defeated yet. Their flagship, the Warlord's Claw, led a counteroffensive, launching heavy plasma barrages toward the Terran front line. A wall of superheated energy surged forward, threatening to engulf the human fleet. "Brace for impact," Lin called. "Negative," Grayson said. "Deploy distorters." The command was met with instant execution. Small, spherical devices were launched from human ships, each an emitter of focused gravitational distortions. When the plasma bolts reached them, they curved unnaturally, bending away from their intended targets. Some were even redirected back into the Zakari fleet. The enemy had prepared for a conventional fight. They had planned for brute force, overwhelming numbers, relentless aggression. What they got was precision, disruption, and total control of the battlefield. High Warlord Virox-Tal stood on the bridge of his flagship, claws digging into the armrests of his throne. His red eyes burned with fury. "This is impossible," he snarled. "How are they doing this?" His tactical officer, panicked, struggled to make sense of the chaos. Their ships, faster, smarter. Their weapons, strange, unpredictable. Their systems, unlike anything we've encountered. Virox bared his fangs. He had commanded thousands of battles, crushed entire civilizations, and burned worlds to ash. Yet in mere minutes, his perfect battle plan had crumbled. He refused to accept it. "Target their flagship," he ordered. "All remaining heavy cruisers, fire everything we have." The Zakari fleet adjusted, bringing its massive firepower to bear on the UTS Warborn. "Incoming barrage," Lin shouted. "Helm, execute high G maneuver Theta," Grayson ordered. "Aye, sir." The Warborn, a behemoth by all known standards, did something no ship of its size should have been able to do. It moved like a predator. Rather than tanking the attack, as Zakari ships often did, it executed a precise, high-speed rotation, using inertial dampeners to evade fire at impossible angles. Enemy plasma blasts streaked through empty space where the vessel had been just moments ago. More human ships followed suit, weaving through enemy fire in ways that defied the expectations of a species used to brute force engagements. And then came the killing blow. "Confirm lock on Zakari flagship," Grayson ordered. "Locked, sir," Lin confirmed. "Fire." The Warborn unleashed a single weapon, something the Zakari had never seen before. Not a missile. Not a plasma beam. Not a mass driver. A lance of dark energy surged forward, bending space itself, tearing through the Zakari flagship shields as if they were air. The impact didn't cause an explosion. It simply erased a portion of the ship from existence. Audiobook-style's bridge went dark. For a brief moment, he saw nothing but emptiness where part of his ship had been. Then the power failed. Flames consumed the control panels. And the fear, for the first time in his life, settled in. "Status report," he roared. No answer. He turned to his remaining officers. "Rally the fleet. We will not fall to these." The second shot landed. The Warlord's claw, the pride of the Zakari Empire, split in two. The Terran fleet did not pause. They moved like a force of nature, cutting through the enemy with brutal efficiency. Every engagement was calculated, every strike methodical. There was no wasted fire, no needless destruction, just surgical precision, dismantling the enemy piece by piece. From the Union's command outpost, Admiral Red Hose watched in disbelief. They're not fighting a war," he murmured. "They're executing a plan." And they were. Grayson never once raised his voice. His officers never panicked. This wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. The Zakari, for all their strength, had never encountered an enemy like this. They had never fought a species that saw war not as an act of brute dominance, but as a problem to be solved. They had never faced humanity. And now, they never would again. 3 hours remained. Panic spread through the Zakari ranks like wildfire. Their flagship was gone. Their command network lay in ruins. Thousands of warships, once the unshakable fist of the Zakari Empire, were now a scattered, disoriented mass, fighting blind. On the UTS Warborn, Admiral Ethan Grayson watched the chaos unfold. His face betrayed no emotion. "Status?" he asked. Tactical Officer Lin didn't look up from her console. "Zakari fleet is in disarray. Estimated combat effectiveness down to 26% and dropping. Some ships are attempting to retreat." "Allow them," Grayson said. "They're no longer a threat." The enemy had lost its cohesion. Without the centralized command structure that had made them so fearsome, the remaining Zakari captains reacted like wounded animals, lashing out, running, or freezing in place. They had spent millennia conquering species that played by the same rules. But humanity had never followed their rules. Across the battlefield, Union forces hesitated, watching as their longtime oppressors flailed in confusion. General Ivarn, stationed on the Union's command ship, couldn't believe what he was seeing. "They're broken," he murmured. Admiral Red Hose, standing beside him, struggled for words. This wasn't just a battle. This was annihilation. Ivan exhaled slowly. "And it's not over yet." Back on the Warborn, Grayson turned to his operations officer. "Begin Phase 2. "Aye, sir." "Initiating precision strikes." Immediately, the Terran fleet shifted tactics. Instead of engaging in large-scale firefights, they began eliminating key enemy assets. Destroyers targeted supply ships, cutting off fuel and ammunition reserves. Stealth drones infiltrated Zakari vessels, disabling engines and power grids. Electronic warfare teams overloaded enemy sensors, making them believe reinforcements were coming from all sides. The Zakari weren't just losing, they were unraveling. On the bridge of one of the last remaining Zakari command ships, Captain Drekvar snarled in frustration. His claws dug into the metal railing as he struggled to restore order. "Reroute auxiliary power. Find the fleet. Where is our command ship?" "Destroyed, Captain," a trembling officer replied. The humans. I know what they did. Drekvar roared. His eyes flicked to the battlefield, searching for some path to salvation. But there was none. His warriors were either dead or fleeing. The mighty empire, the unchallenged terror of the stars, had been undone in mere hours. By a species they had dismissed as insignificant. A flickering transmission appeared on his console, a direct link from the UTS Warborn. Drekvar hesitated before accepting it. The image of Admiral Grayson filled his screen. "You have a choice," Grayson said simply. Drekvar's mandibles tightened. "What choice?" "Surrender." Drekvar's pride recoiled at the word. "We are Zarkari. We do not." Grayson cut him off. "Your empire is gone. Your fleet is shattered. You are no longer fighting for victory. You're fighting for survival. The longer you resist, the more of your people die. Surrender now, and I will allow what remains of your forces to retreat." Drekvar clenched his fists. Every instinct screamed at him to fight, to die with honor. But what honor remained in mindless slaughter? He glanced at his crew, beaten, exhausted, terrified. Finally, his shoulders slumped. "And if we refuse?" Grayson's voice was calm. "Then you will cease to exist." Drekvar stared at him. He had no doubt the human meant it. After a long silence, he closed his eyes and exhaled. "This is Captain Drekvar of the Zarkari Empire," he said at last. "I order all remaining ships to stand down." Across the battlefield, the final Zarkari vessels powered down their weapons. The war, one that had raged for nearly 3 decades, was over. On the Union's command station, the silence was deafening. Then, cheers erupted across the bridge. Officers embraced, soldiers wept, messages of victory flooded every channel. Admiral Redhose sat down heavily, rubbing his face. "Gods!" General Ivan let out a slow breath. "It's over." But Admiral Grayson wasn't celebrating. He turned to his officers. "Monitor all Zarkari vessels," he ordered. "If any attempt to rearm, we finish them." "Aye, sir." Only then did he exhale, his grip on the railing loosening. "Sir," Lynn said quietly, "the Union leadership is requesting to speak with you." Grayson nodded. "Put them through." The holographic display flickered to life. High Minister Trellin, his expression somewhere between awe and unease, stared at Grayson. "You did it," Trellin said, almost in disbelief. Grayson tilted his head. "Was there any doubt?" The minister hesitated. We expected a long, grueling campaign. We feared a Pyrrhic victory at best. But this was something else entirely." "It was necessary," Grayson replied. "The Zarkari have terrorized the galaxy for centuries. We weren't going to let them do it for one more day." Trellin nodded slowly. "We owe you a great debt." Grayson's expression didn't change. "Yes, you do." There was a long pause. Trellin clearly realized what was unspoken in that statement. The Terran fleet had just secured dominance over galactic warfare. Humanity was no longer a junior partner in the Union. They were its new masters. Before Trellin could speak again, Grayson continued, "We will discuss the future soon. For now, focus on your people. They have a war to recover from." Trellin swallowed and nodded. "Of course, Admiral." The transmission cut out. Grayson exhaled, glancing at Lynn. "How long until we finish mop-up operations?" "Less than an hour," she replied. "Good," he said. "Prepare for withdrawal. We're done here." As the last Zarkari vessels limped away, the battlefield, once a place of fire and death, fell silent. The war had lasted 27 years. Humanity had ended it in less than 5 hours. The war was over. But peace was another matter entirely. Admiral Ethan Grayson sat in the dimly lit conference chamber aboard the UTS Warborn, staring at the faces of the Galactic Union leadership. The holographic display flickered slightly as the representatives, each a leader of their respective species, debated among themselves. "Humanity's intervention was decisive," said Minister Trellin, his voice measured. We acknowledge that without your forces, we would have suffered another decade of slaughter. Grayson leaned forward. Yet I sense hesitation. Across the table, Admiral Red Hose shifted uncomfortably. The speed of your victory has changed the balance of power. Did you expect us to bleed alongside you out of politeness? Grayson asked, his tone unreadable. You called for our help. We answered. Silence. No one dared argue the point. Minister Jorvek of the Trellari, a reptilian species known for their shrewd diplomacy, steepled his clawed fingers. The Terran fleet's tactics were unprecedented. Even our analysts failed to predict how effective your methods would be. Grayson's gaze didn't waver. Because you never looked beyond your own doctrine. The galaxy has been fighting the same way for centuries. Line up, charge forward, overwhelm with numbers. It was inefficient, predictable, and needlessly costly. He folded his hands. We don't fight for honor. We don't fight for tradition. We fight to win. A ripple of unease passed through the gathered leaders. They had spent years under the boot of the Zarkari, desperate for salvation. Now they realized the cost of it. Humanity had not just won the war. They had rewritten the rules of warfare. Trellin exhaled, choosing his words carefully. With the Zarkari Empire dismantled, there is a question of governance. Their systems, once under totalitarian rule, will need to be stabilized. And you fear we will take control? Grayson asked, reading between the lines. Jorvek's expression was unreadable. It would be unprecedented. Grayson leaned back. Humanity has no interest in ruling an empire. Trellin blinked, surprised. You don't. We are soldiers, not conquerors, Grayson said. We didn't fight this war to replace one oppressor with another. Red Hose hesitated. Then, what do you want? Grayson's eyes were cold. We want guarantees. We won this war in 5 hours because we refused to think like you. That same thinking tells me that if we step away now, someone else will try to fill the power vacuum. Maybe even someone worse than the Zarkari. Trellin nodded slowly. You propose a transitional authority? Not propose, Grayson said. We demand it. Humanity will oversee the disarmament of remaining Zarkari forces. We will establish an interim security force to prevent opportunists from seizing power. Red Hose frowned. And after? Grayson studied the room. When stability is ensured, we step back. Minister Jorvek was unconvinced. And if the Union does not agree? Grayson's voice was quiet. Then you'll have another problem on your hands. Silence. The implication was clear. Trellin sighed, rubbing his temples. We cannot refuse. Not after what you have done. The Union will support this initiative, under the condition that it is temporary. Grayson nodded. That's all we require. The meeting ended, the holograms winking out one by one. Lynn turned from her console. Do you trust them, sir? Grayson exhaled. No. But they don't have a choice. Planet Korith, former Zarkari territory. 2 weeks later. The city was in ruins. Smoke curled from collapsed towers, and the streets were eerily silent. Zarkari civilians, once proud citizens of an empire that had enslaved countless others, now walked in quiet fear. Human soldiers moved through the remains of the capital, weapons held low but ready. They were not here as conquerors, but as enforcers of order. Captain Sarah Monroe, leader of the 22nd Expeditionary Force, surveyed the area from a rooftop. Below, her troops distributed food and medical supplies. Lieutenant Patel approached. Locals are wary. Some expect execution. Others expect worse. Monroe sighed. Decades of fear don't vanish overnight. Patel hesitated. And the resistance? Monroe's expression hardened. They'll make a move soon. Old warlords, rogue admirals, they won't accept this new reality quietly. As if on cue, a distant explosion rocked the city. Smoke billowed from an administrative building. Monroe activated her comm, All units, lock down the sector. We have hostiles. Across the city, Terran forces mobilized. Their war was not yet over. UTS Warborn, orbit above Korith. Insurgents? Lin asked. Grayson nodded. As expected. There will be remnants unwilling to accept defeat. How do we handle it? Grayson exhaled. Swiftly. We root out any organized resistance, secure key infrastructure, and establish stability. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can leave. Lin hesitated. And if the Union tries to stall our withdrawal? Grayson smirked. They won't. Lin arched an eyebrow. Because they trust us? Grayson's expression was unreadable. Because they fear us. He turned to the viewport. The stars stretched endlessly before him. The Zakari were finished. The war was over. But in 5 short hours, humanity had changed the galaxy forever.